Welcome to the Well-Rounded Retirement Podcast with John and Jim from CRIS Financial. In this podcast, we help you take a well-rounded approach to retirement planning so you can retire with complete certainty. If you're looking for proven and straightforward retirement advice, ranging from how to protect your assets to how to spend with confidence, this show is for you.
Hello and welcome to Well-Rounded Retirement with Jim Donewald and John Glowacz from CRIS Financial. Good afternoon, Jim. How are you?
I'm good, Eric. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I know last time you shared with the audience that John had some surgery and he is still in recovery mode. And I love the way you put it. He's medicated, so we don't want him on the podcast right now.
We're not
it might be funny
today,
but yeah,
he's doing well. He'll be back. He'll be back next week.
Fantastic. All right, love to hear that. All right, so today you gave me the title, but not much else, and I thought this was very interesting. I think you worded it, Eric, you have an awareness problem, which you could talk to my teachers growing up. They probably would tell you the same thing. So we're talking about an awareness problem. What exactly is this?
Yeah, this is just something we've discovered over the years here as we're talking to clients, and sometimes we get in our own fields, and it all makes perfect sense, and then I'm surprised, or maybe I shouldn't be, but some of the average people just don't realize what's going on behind the scenes. And so I thought I'd just touch base on some of those. I'm always the bearer of good news, like, taxes. And so one of the awareness problems, since we deal with mainly the retired or people getting, either right before retirement or getting into retirement, is the provisional income. And for those of you who don't know what that is, their first year doing tax returns after you're getting Social Security is always an eye-opener. So just kind of wanted to touch on what we see a lot of and maybe give the clients a little something to think about before it's too late.
All right.
The first thing is, so what is provisional income? And what it is how they calculate whether or not they're going to tax your Social Security. So a lot of people are already going to wait. They're taxing my Social Security. Yes, this is, we're handing you some money and then we're asking for it right back. So how provisional income works would be anything that you're making here. And what I mean it's going to be any taxable interest, any 1099s you're receiving, even muni bonds, while they may be federally tax-free, will count towards your provisional income, which will decide whether your Social Security gets taxed. If you have rental property, I'm out here in Texas, maybe you got oil leases, and then what they'll do is they'll take any income you're earning from any of those sources, you can say a pension if you have it, and half your Social Security, and they add that all up.
So can you say that again? I'm sorry. You said, so they take the money, whatever you're earning, and add it to half of your Social Security?
Correct. And that's considered your provisional income.
Okay.
So your interest, if you got CDs, anything that's kicking off, even the interest on muni bonds, at least for this calculation, and then one half of your Social Security. So if you're a married couple and you add one half of your Social Security and those income sources, and if you're over 32,000, then 50% of your Social Security will be subject to taxation. Gets a lot worse if you're single.
Jeez.
So if you're single, it's only $25,000. And I think, as you can see with most people, once they take a look at their Social Security, that's pretty easy to hit those numbers. So there's some things we can do, but first of all, you just got to be aware of it. By the way, if you're married and those numbers, your provisional income's to more than $44,000, then 85% of your Social Security is taxable. And if you're single and it's more than $34,000, then 85% of your Social Security is taxable. So, one of the things we try to help with our clients is, here, if you got a great pension, you got a, $80,000 pension, good news, you got an $80,000 pension. But there are some things we need to look at, and that's certainly going to make your Social Security taxable. So it's some planning. You don't want to wait till you're doing your tax return the first year of retirement. You want to have some idea before that. The other thing that we run into all the time is that people say, okay, maybe I don't have a pension or anything with Social Security, I'm fine, but I'm married right now. So you got to remember, if you are married, it's $32,000, and if right before retirement your spouse passes away, and now you're down to $25,000. So that's another thing. Nobody wants that to happen. It's happened to a few of our clients as we're in the planning process. One of the husband or the wife has passed away. And it's very unfortunate, but you just need to be aware that that also affects the way you're taxed. Let me ask you another good question. So, Eric, you got an IRA, I'm assuming. Let's say you have $1 million in your IRA, and you're, I don't know, let's say you're 58 years old.
All right.
How much of that $1 million is yours?
Oh, that's easy. None. I'm married.
You married?
I'm married. My wife will say that's hers. And so,
okay.
Okay.
How much is for you and your wife? How much do you guys both have?
Now I get some money. Okay. Out of $1 million, I would hope, you know what? 750,000.
Yeah. The real answer is we don't know.
Oh, okay.
You haven't retired yet. You're not pulling that out. We would need to know what the tax rate's going to be when you retire.
Mm-hmm.
So when we go to pull that out, that's going to be it. We've never paid taxes on that, right?
Correct. We have not paid taxes on it because it's in a regular IRA.
Right. So all of that goes towards your provisional income. That's part of your RMDs when you get to be 72. The other thing I would bring up, that if you had $1 million now and you're only 58, 60 years old, by the time that's 72, hopefully that's doubled, which could generate some high RMDs for you, which is required minimum distribution, which is based off, it's a percentage of your IRA that you need to take. If you're not already taking it, the IRS requires that you take that because they want you to start paying taxes on some of this money.
Mm-hmm.
So, we have some options. You're not 72 yet, and most of our clients come in, somewhere between, 50 and 65, and you have some time to plan this out a little bit better. So one of the things we like are Roth contributions while you're still working. Anybody listening to this, if they've got a job and they have a 401k Roth option, take it. You don't need to call me. You don't need to call my office. Take that. If you aren't contributing to a Roth and you want to do that. I will just tell you right now, the way our country is spending money, that'll be a great way to go. And we always say you want to pay taxes on the harvest or the seed. So what we mean by that is let's pay the taxes on it while the money's growing. So we pay it on while it's little, and then when it gets to be large, we get to take that out tax-free.
Mm-hmm.
And these are kind of the things we want to do over time. We don't want to eat the elephant all in one day. It's a one bite at a time. So we want to show people how to do that. Like I say, taxes is always a big part of what we talk about because it affects so much. It can easily add $500,000, $1 million back into the money you get to spend easily by some tax planning. We see that consistently. So these are the things we need to do. And like I say, I call them awareness problems because when I ask people how much is in their IRA, they say $1 million. How much of that is yours? They think a lot more sometimes than what really will be theirs. What I have right now today might be $1 million and a 24% tax lien. But once again, I'm not retired either, so that could be anything. If you think about it, we got into a deal with our IRAs where we're going to take the money out now while we are supposedly in a higher tax bracket, take the deduction, which I'm all for, and then take that money out later when we're in a lower tax bracket. Well, if you listen to any of our previous podcasts, we don't believe that's going to be the case. We believe tax rates are going to be significantly higher in the future. So that kind of turns that formula on its ear. So while you still have time, making these adjustments may make sense. Once again, not for everybody. You got to run the numbers. It's very simple. I'm a math guy. I love it. It's nice when it makes sense conceptually, but when I can show you on paper that it's worth your while to pay the taxes now, it just makes sense. So like I say, awareness is a huge part. So provisional income, I see that constantly as confusion for people or surprise, how much they really have in their IRAs, and then what to do about it. There's, like I said, there's nothing wrong with a pension. There's nothing wrong with CDs. There's nothing wrong with municipal bonds. But how's the best way to position them in your portfolio so that you can get the most out of everything? I would like my Social Security to be tax-free. That's what I would like. So if there's a way to do that, and there are for many people, there are a lot of ways to do that or can do that. And the beauty of it, we're not going to get to a low tax rate environment by doing any one thing, which is also, I think, great from a planning perspective, is what our firm practices is multiple strategies, multiple diversification over multiple years to reduce taxes, reduce the risk, and prepare for retirement. We want our retirement to be fun and relaxing. At least that's what I want. I don't want to watch the ticker, worry if the stock market's going down. That's not me. If that's you, great, God bless you. But that's just not me. I want to kind of set it and forget it. I'm very conscious of it now, but at some point I'm going to want to turn that part off and just go play with the kids, go down to the beach.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic to me. Now, you had talked about Roth contributions, starting a Roth, maybe changing your 401k at work to a Roth 401k if you have that option. But I know that you've talked about Roth conversions on podcasts before. Is it a wise idea for everyone to consider that, or is it something that it's only over a certain dollar amount?
So, the Roth conversion to me is well worth it because I do believe tax rates are going to go up in the future. So for me, it makes sense to convert a portion of my money from the traditional IRA to the Roth. I have the ability to do that, and I have the time to do that. So to me, that just makes perfect sense. And mathematically, this is what we do for our clients. We will show them the math behind it, and does it make sense for them to do it? So based on your needs, your tax bracket, maybe you get a big bonus this year. It'll make sense whether we do it this year or next year or how to structure it. So it's real important that you get with a planner that knows exactly how that works. But to me, even the 401k Roth, if you get matching funds, your employer is going to give you your matching funds in a standard 401k, not the Roth. And that's still fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But let's take the money we can and put it in the Roth 401k or the regular Roth contributions if you're able. I think everyone will benefit from that.
Now, how many times can you do a Roth conversion? I mean, as far as from what I understand, maybe I'm incorrect here, but I thought you could do it multiple times. If you've got an IRA, you can do partial conversions?
Absolutely, and that's a great question, right? So they've really, at least for now, the rules on Roth conversions are really just, do you have the money to pay the taxes? So ideally what we want to do is take money from our IRA and convert it to the Roth and pay the taxes out of our other income besides the IRA. If you have those kind of funds available, you have multiple choices of how you can do it. So it doesn't have to be all or nothing. So that's a good question. So it really just comes with the ability to, do I have the money to pay the taxes? That's the ideal format. Even sometimes if we don't, there's other ways to structure it, but that's what we prefer, is to take the money from the tax deferred bucket, so your IRA, put it into the tax free or tax advantage bucket, and pay the taxes out of the taxable bucket. Does that make sense?
Yes, but when you say the taxes, are you talking about because of the conversion that's going to be counted towards income? So it's your income taxes that is being counted?
Exactly.
Okay,
right.
so
right
there are
now,
limits, right? I mean, there are certain tax brackets. I know they've been called tax brackets. So I'm assuming your team is looking at, okay, you make $100,000 a year combined, and you have $1 million in this IRA. You can convert $100,000 from this IRA into the Roth, which would increase my salary, for the year, my income for the year to $200,000 would put me in a specific tax bracket. Correct?
That is correct. So and that's exactly what we'll do. So let's just say we're already in the 22% tax bracket. Let's just say in today's numbers. If you're not at the absolute max of the 22% tax bracket, might it make sense to remove as much as you can?
Yeah,
you're already paying 22%. So why would you not take advantage of every penny you could? My next favorite tax bracket is 24, which gets us up over 300,000. That's not that big a jump, a 2% tax bracket. Depending on how much money you have to move and what kind of time frame, we're looking at roughly 6 years at this point, 2026. We'd like the heavy lifting to be done. It doesn't necessarily have to all get jammed in that 6-year period, but that's kind of the ideal scenario. But yes, you're right. So what we want to look is we don't want to push you into a high tax bracket. That's why I said earlier, let's say I'm getting a huge bonus this year, or maybe I got laid off and I got a good severance package. So we don't do anything this year. But then next year, we really get serious because we've got the room to go and we don't have the income coming in. So it's real important that, we're trying to put the clients ahead of the game. So by increasing your taxes isn't putting you ahead of the game. So we want to make sure we don't pay any more than we have to.
Yeah, and I know this kind of ties to some of the other tax changes when it comes to somebody inheriting an IRA. They have to take all the distributions within 10 years, correct?
Correct, right? So all these tricks of the trade that we have, it's like, that's why I say it's about the plan and not the products. These products change all the time. The plan now is you're correct. So we can't stretch them anymore is what we used to do and take those payments over a long period of time. Now it's the Secure Act. They have to be taken out over the 10 years. So not as beneficial for sure as it used to be.
Yeah. So, I mean, that again, you're just doing the simple math, figuring out what somebody's income is, what's going to be the maximum of that tax bracket that they're in. And each year, taking some of those distributions, and hopefully if they can do that, they can put them into a Roth or however that works. But I mean, that would be great. And then maybe in year 9 or 10, they just take the entire year off, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Sounds good to me.
What I gotta tell you, we want to keep it simple, obviously, for the podcast here, but we actually have extensive software that does that. So that is the basics of what we're doing, but we're very careful. We got growth, we got inflation plugged in there. We want to make sure that we're given the best numbers we can as to how to do this, and we put a whole plan together for our clients. So what do you do in year 1? What do you do in year 2? What do you do in year 3? When you start taking money, where do you take it from? How do I keep it so I stay in the lowest possible tax bracket? That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, sounds great to me. So, Jim, I know that you guys have worked with a ton of clients. Tell us a bit of an example or a story of how the calculations, the software, really kind of putting all this stuff in order for one of your clients in their plans affected them.
Well, it's funny because we've done this. We've been talking about it. We had David McKnight on, which speaks about it's called the power of zero, getting into the 0% tax bracket, which means our Social Security isn't taxed, the Roth money isn't taxed, the Roth contribution isn't taxed. Maybe they have a LIRP that's which is a life insurance plan, isn't taxed. And then they have their RMDs smaller than their standard deduction, which means that's not taxed. So when you have zero tax, and zero tax, that's the zero tax bracket. And I've been doing this for a while, and I'm in Texas here by the oil corridor. A lot of these clients have nice pensions, whatever. But I have some people just recently that have really been able to get into that 0% tax bracket. And it's just amazing because they don't have the pensions and the difference that'll make. We have found, I had a gal come in here yesterday. We crunched the numbers for her, and she's absolutely going to be able to get in the 0% tax bracket. And what that does on average is make your income last 5 to 7 years more if your Social Security isn't taxed. Now, that doesn't happen for everybody, but even if it's mildly taxed, the reductions are still phenomenal. It's the time value of money over time at how much you're being taxed. It's, we all know it's not what we make, it's what we get to keep. So, her situation was that her Social Security would not be taxed. She had a small pension that fell under her provisional income. And then we're going to convert some of her money to Roth contributions, and she's going to have a rosy little retirement.
That's a beautiful picture. Again, I know we've said it on previous podcasts, but you can't put a price on peace of mind and maybe a good night's sleep, because when you know that you're in that situation, you've got your retirement taken care of, and you know the outlook, and that's got to be huge.
Absolutely. That's what I want for myself. That's what I want for my clients. I want to make sure that when you say you're done, it's a hard transition. It's hard for people to go from working 40, 50, 60 hours a week to not working and not worrying about it. I mean, it seems kind of funny. I'm lucky. I live in an area where we have to encourage a lot of our clients they have more money they can spend. They're kind of conservative, which is nice, but that's the ideal. That's what you're looking for. We want to spend with confidence. That's what we say.
Yeah. And then you get to have some fun helping them plan to bless other people, grandkids,
absolutely.
Their community, their church, whatever it is. They've got the funds to be able to do that and to be able to open their eyes to that. Man, I would love you guys to build like a picture wall of people and the accomplishments, the things that they've been able to do that brought them joy within your office. Yeah. All right. Jim, thank you so much for your time today. This is a great podcast.
Thank you.
Jim, if people do want that rosy picture and they're looking for a little bit of peace of mind, how do they reach out to you to talk to you about this?
Well, you can go to our Well-Rounded Retirement website. You can call our office at 281-665-3081, or you can email John or myself at john@CRIS Financial or jim@crsfinancial.com.
All right. Thank you, Jim, again for your time.
Thank you.
You bet. And thank you all for listening to the Well-Rounded Retirement Podcast with Jim Donewald and John Glowacz. If you have not subscribed to the podcast yet, please click the subscribe now button below. This way, when Jim and John come out with a new podcast, it'll show up directly on your listening device. This makes it much easier to share these podcasts with your friends and family. Again, thank you so much for listening today. For everyone at CRIS Financial, this is Eric Johnson reminding you to live your best day every day. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Well-Rounded Retirement Podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of CRIS Financial. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service providers with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.